Good evening. Assistance for high school seniors to pursue their college dreams. Bennet Marks explains Apple Lambda, a new, in 1986, organization for LGBT employees at Apple Computer Incorporated. UC Santa Cruz abruptly shuts down their 32-year-old Shakespeare Festival, but a new theater company is carrying on the tradition on this May 2015 edition of Outlook Video. Welcome to the May 2015 edition of Outlook Video, your award-winning monthly magazine for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender communities. I'm Roberta Gonzalez-Gregg.
And I'm Johnny Zick. Great to have you with us for this month's Outlook Video.
Bay Area high school students are in the spring semester of classes now, leading to graduation in June. This is a hopeful yet stressful time for high school students wishing to pursue their academic college dreams. As well aware as high school seniors and their families are of the high cost of tuition, college may be out of reach for many. Stay tuned when we talk with Ed Tang, founder of the Tang Scholarship for Asian Pacific Islander LGBT students, and we'll learn how those students can achieve their college goals via the Tang Scholarship.
The flyer says the first meeting of Apple Lambda, the Apple Lesbian and Gay Employees Organization, will be held at Gay and Lesbian Alliance at Stanford upstairs at the Stanford Old Firehouse. That was to be at 8 p.m. on Thursday, August 14th, 1986. And Bennet Marks started it all. Christine Kunkel interviews Bennet about his role in the origin of Apple Lambda and how far things have come. Now that we know the current leader of Apple, Tim Cook, is the only openly gay CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Oh my gosh, we're turning into the History Channel. Well, let me take you back a little bit to the 18th or 16th century to our "to be or not to be," a famous quote from the Shakespeare play Hamlet, which we all know by heart. But seriously, in 2013, administrators at UC Santa Cruz ended the 32-year run of Shakespeare Santa Cruz, the professional repertoire company in residence at the campus, due to budget problems. Community outrage was swift, and donors immediately raised funds to start a new theater company. Santa Cruz Shakespeare starts its second season this summer with artistic director Mike Ryan, and he's here tonight to give us an update.
And that will complete our show for this month. We now join Roberta in the studio with Ed Tang and Catrina Gotuaco.
Hi, I'm Wilson Cruz, and you're watching Outlook Video.
We are delighted to have Ed Tang of the Tang Scholarship and student Catrina Gotuaco, I hope I didn't do that too much injustice, recipient of one of those scholarships, here in the studio to inform us on how this scholarship was founded and what aspiring students can do to apply. Thank you so much, and welcome, Ed, and welcome, Catrina. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank
now
you.
Then, how did this get started? It's got your name all over it, so we know it's something that you started. How did this start, and when?
It started in April of '97. I had the opportunity with a sum to start something I always wanted to do, which is a scholarship to help API LGBT students, and so they can pursue their education without shame.
I love the part that you just said, without shame. In fact, it states in your webpage that your scholarship allows hundreds of GLBT youth to go to college and have a better chance of attaining their educational and life goals. But what it also states, and I think is just as important, this award is meant to help GLBT youth to proudly achieve their educational goals and dreams without having to feel any shame. You're not only giving scholarships, you're helping lift up the LGBT community of Asian and Pacific Islanders specifically. This is a wonderful thing. Catrina, did you find that that's exactly what may have happened for you in your instance?
Yeah, I definitely felt that way, just
Yes.
because it is specific to the API community, the API LGBT community, and knowing that there's this foundation, this individual donor to support you because of who you are is very validating.
Was it difficult to apply?
No, it was clear in terms of what you had to do, so it wasn't confusing, but there was a process that you had to invest a lot of time and effort in, an essay, recommendations or transcripts, and an interview process.
Okay, so you didn't make it easy.
It's pretty straightforward.
And it's also states, and this, I noticed in the scholarship application, that your students are above average.
Yes, actually, they are outstanding students. 2 years ago, at least 4 students were all 4.0 and higher. They're outstanding students.
That speaks very well of your students. You too, young lady. Okay. How exactly does one apply? You can do this online?
The application itself is online.
Okay.
They can type up and print out and mail it in.
I guess this was something that also was dear to your heart?
Yes, dear to my heart, because I had a very difficult time coming out.
Yes.
I was disowned by my parents,
Oh.
and so I wanted to do something for my APL LGBT so they can be proud of themselves and who they are.
Do students reapply throughout time, or how does that work?
It's actually, there's an age limit between 17 and 25.
Okay.
And in Catrina's case, she is eligible to receive equal amount of scholarship for 4 years.
Okay.
Right.
That's really
The first year, you have to go through the whole application process with the interview. The remaining 3 years is just basically automatic renewal with updated transcript and a personal statement.
And they still have to keep up those good grades.
Oh,
yes?
they have to,
They have to
yes.
keep up their good grades. But
And they have to go to school.
oh, there is that. So, and you get students who have a variety of different goals as far as their education goes. Well, for instance, Catrina, what is your major?
I'm doing a master's in school counseling and marriage and family therapy.
Oh, that's great. Are there just a variety of other goals and majors for students?
Yes, basically the whole spectrum. We are getting a lot of students from graduate schools.
Oh, so it's not just high school students who are coming out, it's graduate students, which I believe that's you, isn't it? Yes? Oh, that's terrific. That's really, really wonderful to know. And you have funds that you say you disperse out throughout the year. So does it depend on, is it a variety that each student may get? Like one student gets 1,000, another gets 3,000, or how does that work?
That's the tricky part.
Okay. It depends on their situation?
First of all, it's financial, it's a need basis.
Okay, sure.
They have to have the financial need.
Yes.
And also depends on the number of students that we select. And every year we have $60,000 to work with.
That's a good sum. That's a very good sum that you can disperse throughout the different students and their families. I'm sure their families are just as appreciative. Do you get to hear from their families as well?
Not often.
No? Okay. But it's good, again, that you are doing this service to the community. As I said, you're not just giving them these scholarships, which helps their academic goals, but I think you're giving them value and self-worth. And that in itself, I think is priceless. Very good. Well, thank you so very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you
for
having us.
having this scholarship to begin with, especially for Pacific and Asian people of that community. That means a great deal. It means a great deal to our viewers. So thank you again for joining us. For more information, go to sites.google.com/Tang Scholarship. Thanks again for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having us, Roberta.
By now you have heard that Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, is openly gay. What you may not know is that our very own Bennet Marks started Apple Computer's first Gay Employees Association, and here to tell us all about that and the history is Bennet Marks. It's wonderful to have you here, Bennet.
Thank you very much.
Now tell me, take us back in history. What was the general climate like back in 1986 for the LGBT community?
Well, it was a fairly early time in gay rights, and it was also a very difficult time because it was about 5 years into the AIDS crisis. And people were dying by the thousands, and nobody really understood what was going on terribly well. There were not effective treatments, and there was a lot of fear, stigma, hatred, very difficult time. In corporations, people were generally in the closet. Almost everyone I knew was in the closet, and were not openly gay at work. A couple of Silicon Valley companies had gay employees groups. My partner, Kim, who is now my husband, worked for Hewlett-Packard, and they had a group for several years. But they tended to be social groups and mutual support groups. They were often flew under the radar and were not working with their companies or terribly visible in the company. You
started the first employee group, LGBT group at Apple.
The only one, really. They've changed. It was called Apple Lambda when I started it. They've changed their name to Pride at Apple, but it's actually been almost 30 years now of that organization.
Wow, Bennet, that's such a legacy. Thank you for doing that. And tell me, when you started it, did you have any idea how you were going to do it, who you were going to work with, how you were going to get your message out to the employees at Apple?
You know, I had to make it all up. I really did. There was an initiative on the ballot called Prop 64, the Lyndon LaRouche Initiative, which was a misguided and punitive AIDS initiative. And I had been out for about 4 years to myself and to my gay friends and to some people at work, one at a time. And this was when I first got involved with any kind of activism. I went to a meeting about how to fight Prop 64. And people were all volunteering what they could do. I'll do this, I'll do that. And I thought, oh, I can do fundraising among all the apathetic, rich gay people I know at Apple. And I realized I didn't know any. I knew like 1 or 2 people. Everyone is in the closet. And I thought, Apple needs an organization so that the next time an initiative, even if I can't do it in time for this, the next time an initiative comes along, I want a mailing list. I want to have one. And I also decided very early on that I didn't want to fly under the radar. I wanted visibility for LGBT people at, we said gay and lesbian back then, at Apple. I wanted to work with the company on changing policies and on getting their support. So really, the first thing I did after talking to 1 or 2 friends was to go to HR and say, I want to start this organization called Apple Lambda. How do I go about it in a way that fits in with the company's culture?
That was so brave.
Looking back on it, I think maybe it was.
And what was the reaction of everyone at the company?
The people I dealt with in HR and the executives I talked to, they were, I didn't get homophobia from them, but I got a kind of indifference. It was like, why would you want to do something like that? We don't understand. Is there a problem you're trying to solve? And there's this one story that I really remember very well. I went to go meet with a person in HR, and I sat down with him, and I had like a sample flyer that had Apple Lambda on it and the little Apple logo and a Lambda. And he said, now, we don't have anything against our gay employees, and if there's problems you're experiencing, they should come to us one at a time. But we don't let the Apple name or the Apple logo be associated with any particular lifestyle, was the term he used. And I had been very lucky. On my way into his office, I had walked past a shelf of HR materials, and I had grabbed one impulsively and stuck it in my notebook. And I pulled it out now, and it was a flyer for the Apple Parents Forum, which was for people at Apple who had small children or are expecting to have small children soon. And it was like, oh, you don't let the Apple name be associated with any lifestyle. And he just sort of looked at it and said, well, you got a point.
Oh, Bennet.
And that was the moment that I knew that we were going to be able to work with the company, that we were going to be able to be public, because I could make the point that this was nothing more unusual than a group of employees with some common interests and common concerns, like that, just like the Apple Parents Forum or anything like that. And from there on, I worked with more and more people in the company, both gay people and not gay people. And it was very exciting. I was an engineer at Apple. I wrote software. But through Apple Lambda, I just got to meet so many people, and I got to work with HR and PR and the exec staff and legal. And it really expanded my horizons. I learned a lot about dealing with a corporation, dealing with people, and of course I met wonderful people who joined Apple Lambda, and they did so much.
Tell me about the accomplishments of the group.
Our first accomplishment was just to come together and start supporting each other.
Definitely.
And that turned out to be very important because people just felt very isolated. They didn't know any other gay people at the company, or they knew one or two, and they felt very isolated. And then we started becoming visible. We started, doing projects or having talks that we invited everyone to, just to let them know we were there, just to make it public. And it raised awareness of our issues. Now, the two key issues for us that we could focus on was a non-discrimination policy for sexual orientation. The state did not have a legal policy at the time. There was no law protecting gay and lesbian people at that time. And so to get the company to put in such a policy was a very, very big deal for us. And that took a few years. And then the other one was domestic partner benefits. And that was, that costs money. A non-discrimination policy is one thing, but domestic partner benefits does cost money, and you really, really have to convince people that it's the right thing to do, and it's the fair thing to do, and that it's good for the company. And we worked for years on that project, and we got it done. My memory says that in Silicon Valley, Apple was the first corporation that had either of those things. And then other corporations were like, oh, look, Apple's doing that. We have to do that too. And they ran on behind. So we were like, a ripple moving through a pond.
Great accomplishments.
We're very proud of it.
Yeah, and tell me about today. What's going on at Apple today?
Well, I left the company in '97. And after we got a non-discrimination policy and domestic partner benefits, a lot of people were thought like, oh, well, we got the big ones, we can just sit back in our chairs now. Some people disagreed and thought there's a lot yet to be done, and there is. There's always an enormous amount to be done, and you always have to keep your eye on maintaining what you've got, too. But I know the people who are in Apple Lambda over the years, as friends, and it's sort of tapered off somewhat, and they didn't march in the parade anymore. But this last year, Apple Lambda marched in the San Francisco parade for the first time in about 8 years.
Wonderful.
They had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. There was all this pent-up demand, and their CEO, Tim Cook, marched with them. That was before he came out of the closet. And we all know that with the recent Indiana law, it was corporations who said, we think this is a bad idea for business.
It really warms my heart to hear your story on that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Bennet is inviting former Apple Lambda members over to his website at applelambdahistory.wordpress.com or to Facebook and search for Apple Lambda History. Coming up next, Shakespeare Santa Cruz's new season. You're watching Outlook Video.
We love to get mail from you. Email us at comments@outlookvideo.org.
To contact us by phone, call 408-293-3040, extension 205.
Visit our website at outlookvideo.org.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/outlookvideo.
And connect with us at facebook.com/outlookvideo.
To be or not to be? That famous Shakespeare quote from the play of Hamlet could also have been the mantra of UC Santa Cruz Shakespeare Festival as it came to a shutdown. The local community changed that not to be to a to be by starting a new independent repertory theater, a company founded by co-artistic directors Marco Baratelli and Mike Ryan. The company starts its second season this summer with Much Ado About Nothing, The Liar, and Macbeth. With me in studio is artistic director Mike Ryan with more details on this theater company. Mike, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
This is fantastic. Welcome to the program.
Thanks.
Now, Mike, let's get started though first on your acting career, which started when you were at the ripe old age of 14. Is that right?
It did, yeah.
Yeah. And how did that happen? How did that come about?
I grew up in Oklahoma, and there was a local Shakespeare festival that offered a class during the academic year to high school students, and they made a promise that if you took the class throughout the academic year, they would find a small role for you in the play. And I didn't know two things when I signed up for it. First, that I would be the only boy in the class. And second of all, that there were actually roles for boys in Shakespeare. So I started playing a lot of larger roles really early on in my young acting career.
Your acting career really started with Shakespeare.
It did.
And has that really been your main focus, or that just kind of happened to wind its way?
It was never my intention to sort of become the artistic director of a Shakespeare festival, but my work has largely been classical in nature, so it's not surprising, I suppose.
And speaking of classical, we tend to think of Shakespeare in that old English style, but your company is presenting it a little bit differently. Talk to us about that.
One of the things that I very firmly believe about theater is that we always have to ask why we're doing this play now and for this particular audience, which means that we need to look at plays through a 21st century lens. So I'm not so into museum Shakespeare with the ruffs and pumpkin pants and sort of old ways of speaking. We always keep Shakespeare's language intact, so we don't change his language.
Okay.
But we do often play with the time period of the plays. We play with gender. One of the things that's very important to me is gender parity. So our acting company is composed of half men and half women.
Well, but wait a minute. Not all the roles are but are the roles equally men and women? Is it mixed up?
No, in fact, Shakespeare wrote most of his. He was writing for an entirely male acting company, so even his female roles were played by boys.
Wow.
So we changed the gender of some of the characters to make the stories a little bit more inclusive and to reflect a little more honestly where we'd like to see the 21st century go in terms of power structure and things like that.
Now, all of your actors, are they seasoned actors in the Shakespeare Festival?
We employ a mix of actors.
Yes.
We employ a number of union actors, Actors Equity Association folks who are very seasoned and very experienced. We hire some non-equity actors who are not union members, but also in many cases have a lot of experience that just never joined the union. And then we have a small intern company, who are usually students who are in college, looking for the next step in their professional career.
I'm glad you mentioned students, because you said that you've been involved with queer theater.
Yes, in fact, I taught queer theater at UC Santa Cruz when I was there.
Okay, and was that also with a Shakespearean focus?
Not with a Shakespearean focus, no, more queer theater in general.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that still happening by chance?
They're pretty good about offering a lot of classes that focus on diversity, that satisfy diversity requirements at the university there.
Well, it's good to know that this acting equity will be happening, because that's be a little bit more inclusive. Yeah, well, actually, yes, a lot more inclusive and the audience I'm sure will enjoy that.
Absolutely.
All right. And you co-founded this. You had a vested interest of sorts?
Well, I cut my teeth at this festival. I came there when I was 25 years old, back in 1997, and have acted there most years ever since, from that first year until the time that the festival was closed. And so when the time came to reboot the festival, if you will, and ask the community to support it in a different incarnation, I was one of the leaders of that movement, if you will.
And I'm sure that the whole community really appreciates that. Okay, Mike, thank you for joining us and telling us about the second season of the Santa Cruz Shakespeare Festival. You'll want to catch Much Ado About Nothing on July 3rd, followed by The Liar on July 14th, and Macbeth on August 7th. For information, point your web browsers to santacruzshakespeare.org. Again, Mike, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to the festival coming up.
Thank you.
You bet. So much for this edition of Outlook Video. To see our videos on the internet, point your web browser to your YouTube channel at youtube.com/OutlookVideo and click on the subscribe button for notification of more videos from us.
And you can friend us on Facebook at facebook.com/OutlookVideo. Outlook Video is made possible by viewers like you and our dedicated volunteers behind the camera. We close with some clips from Oakland Pride 2014 on behalf of all of us at Outlook Video. Thank you for watching, and please join us again next month.
Well, it's our 5th year, our 5th anniversary. We wanted to do something more, something a little better, and to really kick it up a notch. And so we decided on a parade. We had a community survey that went out last year, and overwhelmingly people said, we want a parade, we want a parade. So we worked with the City of Oakland, we worked with Oakland Mayor Gene Kwan's office, and a council member, Rebecca Kaplan's office, and we were able to pull off a parade down Broadway.
I love it. I love it. I'm so excited to be one of the first ever Pride Grand Marshals. I think it's amazing. I'm one of the founders of Oakland Pride, and I am just so, there are no words. But I'm just so happy to see so many people. Isn't this beautiful?